After wanting one for so long, I finally pulled the trigger on the LG C1, which is still one of the best TVs you can get your hands on right now for both media consumption, but more importantly in my opinion, gaming. In my case, I wanted a TV that'd be future-proof and work well with my PS5 as well as custom PC when I want to sit back and play some games. It's made for the perfect addition to my bedroom setup, and in today's video, I'll review it from my experience and hopefully help those of you on the fence decide if it's worth the price. I went with a 48-inch model and was able to snag it on sale for $800. Before seeing it in person, I thought that it would be on the small side with there being much larger options of 55, 65, 77, and 83 inches, but it's honestly the perfect size to have in my room and games still look gorgeous on it. Even though I've only had the 48-inch model to review, everything I talk about will still apply to all of the other sizes. Starting off with the design, this TV is stunning. The bezels are pretty slim and the flat panel is the thinnest that I've ever seen on any device. It did make me a little paranoid during setup though, as I didn't want it to snap on me. Towards the bottom is where all the components of the TV will be, along with its I/O, which I'll get into in just a minute. It weighs in at 32.8 pounds without the stand and is VESA mountable with a 300 by 200 millimeter mount size. Using the included stand though, it'll weigh in at 41.7 pounds. I absolutely love the way it looks, and the slight angle actually works to reduce reflections on the display. Although it's fully made of plastic, it still feels very premium and looks sleek. There's a slot at the back where you can route the cables to ensure you're keeping everything tidy as well. The whole stand itself measures 20 inches long and 7 inches wide at the back side, then at the front 32 inches long by 3.5 inches wide. This makes for the entire TV and stand taking up 42 inches across and 10 inches deep, with the display being 1.5 inches off the ground. With this, it should have no issues fitting in most every media console or bedroom it'll be living. Looking to the side of the TV, we'll see some of the port selection we have. There's 3 HDMI 2.1 ports which all support a 4K resolution at 120Hz, though one has support for eARC or enhanced audio return channel, which allows audio to be reproduced at the best possible quality. This would be especially nice if you're using a soundbar and want a fantastic audio experience. The last port on the side is a single USB-A in, and turning to the back we have 2 additional ones. There's also an additional HDMI 2.1 port, Ethernet connection, satellite antenna, and then an optical audio out port. It's nice to see that we have not just one, but all 4 HDMI ports being 2.1, meaning they're going to work flawlessly with the next gen consoles. Talking about the display panel itself, it's simply gorgeous. Being an OLED, each pixel can be controlled individually and turn off completely, making for inky blacks and a fantastic picture quality overall. To this day, every time I turn on the TV, it blows me away just how good it looks. Even just sitting on the PS5 home screen, I'm in awe of how crisp everything looks on here. After playing so much on the OLED, it's honestly been so difficult to go back to my ultra-wide. The picture on its IPS panel doesn't even come close to the same quality. I've angled the TV so that I can use it straight on from my bed, but the viewing angles are very impressive. You can look at it from literally any angle without any sacrifice in image quality or color accuracy. I've done no color calibration out of the box and have had absolutely no issues with how it looks. If you'd like to do your own tweaking though, diving into the settings is quite simple. Pressing the gear button on the remote will open the side pop-up, and if you press on all settings, you can not only configure the picture, but also the sound, general, or support. There's a few different HDR picture modes you can use, like Vivid, Standard, Cinema, Game Optimizer, and Filmmaker mode, but on top of that you can go to the advanced settings to change things like brightness, clarity, and a ton more. I've had the TV at 100% brightness and found it to be fine most of the time, but comparing the OLED panel to other TVs, it doesn't get quite as bright, peaking at somewhere around 700 to 750 nits in HDR content. This is definitely something you should consider depending on where you're going to be using the TV. I sit at my bed when playing in the corner where I have 2 windows, and during the day it can be a little difficult to see clearly as there will be some reflections on the screen. This is even with the blinds shut, so if you are somewhere with direct sunlight, it probably wouldn't be a very good experience. Another thing worth noting with OLED panels is burn-in. It's definitely a real issue and worth taking into consideration. I haven't been using the TV super long term, so haven't had any issues thus far, but still have been careful to not leave it on a static image and will always turn it off completely when stepping away. I have played some games like Call of Duty with static HUD elements, but I think that so long as you're switching up the content and aren't always having the same thing on screen, you really shouldn't have too much to worry about. There are some OLED care features like pixel cleaning, screen move, and automatically adjusting static logo brightness that will help to prevent any burn-in. When it comes to the built-in speakers, I've actually been a little disappointed in them considering how much I paid for the TV. There's various audio modes you can toggle between, but the quality overall is underwhelming in my opinion. You can configure the sound based on whether you've wall mounted or are just using the stand, and it'll optimize it accordingly. With the speakers being on the bottom, it's going to bounce off whatever surface it's sitting on, so it won't make for the most impressive sound. The ideal setup here would be with a soundbar using eARC and enabling the TV's Dolby Atmos support for a truly immersive audio experience. Most of my time spent with the C1 has been gaming, and it's been damn near perfect for it. The picture is stunning on this 4K panel, and in every game I play, the environments look so good. Its crazy contrast as well makes playing in a dark room just a pleasure. The 4 HDMI 2.1 ports are super clutch, and it's actually a big reason I decided to go with this TV. As well, it has support for VRR, which prevents any screen tearing by matching the screen's refresh rate to the game's FPS. With this, you don't have to sacrifice any performance and can take full full advantage of your gaming system. Now that the PS4 has VR support, it's fantastic in games like Spider-Man Remastered, which has a 120Hz mode that makes the game feel buttery smooth. With VR eliminating the need for performance headroom, some games have bumped up the 30 FPS cap in fidelity mode to 40, which might not seem like a big jump at first, but is still actually a noticeable improvement. Turning on the TV's game optimizer mode, it gets even better with low latency being enabled. This is great for when you're playing games like Call of Duty, where fast reaction times are important. This makes for no noticeable input lag, and playing on the TV just feels so fluid. There's other options within the game optimizer like black and white stabilizers, OLED Motion Pro to reduce motion blur, and AI game sound that can automatically adjust your sound depending on the game you're playing. The C1 has been perfect alongside my PS5, but using with my custom PC as well has been fantastic. It has full NVIDIA G-Sync support, which is great since my build is using an RTX 2070 Super. Playing games in Steam Big Picture with the DualSense controller has been awesome, but the biggest drawback is that my GPU isn't quite beefy enough to run a lot of games at 4K with very high frame rates, so I do have to tune down the settings. I found that the upscaling doesn't always work too well, and trying to play a game in 1080 just looks really bad. Though enabling NVIDIA DLSS and supported games can help to boost frames and make games a lot more playable at 4K. If you're planning to use the C1 as a long-term monitor for your PC, I do recommend you turn on auto high taskbar on Windows to prevent any burn-in. But when not connected to the PC or PS5, I've actually been pretty disappointed in the performance of WebOS. It's ridiculous for how much this TV costs that the software feels so sluggish. I stay out of it as much as I can and just use the PS5 for any media consumption I do rather than try to use the apps on the TV itself. Though the remote you use to navigate the C1 is actually pretty nice. The buttons all feel solid to press, and the center directional pad is nice to press on. There's also the middle dial that works as a cursor, which is a cool idea in theory, but I've actually found it to be more of a pain to use. It's not always super accurate, and I hate having to wave the remote around to jump through menus. Now that there is an upgraded LG C2 available, you may be asking if it's worth the upgrade, but the C1 is still a much better value for money as the changes were very minor. There's some improvements with the WebOS speed, peak brightness, and upscaling, but aside from that, the two are more or less identical, so it's best to save your money and get the C1 as it's still a fantastic option. Bringing the video to a close and answering the question of is the LG C1 OLED worth it, I definitely think it's worth the investment for those who game a lot and do have their hands on a next-gen console or beefy PC. With its 4K resolution and 120Hz refresh rate, this TV is future-proof to run any game that comes out this console generation and probably well into the next. The 40-inch size for me has been great. I don't think it's small at all and makes for the perfect addition to my bedroom gaming setup. Though for those using it in a living room, you may want to opt for a larger size. The OLED panel makes for those inky blacks and a fantastic picture quality that's so nice to have in games and movies alike. There is the question of burn-in posing an issue long term, but if you're taking precaution and switching up the content you're displaying frequently, it really shouldn't be that much of a worry. I'm curious what you guys think and hope I was able to help those of you thinking about buying this TV come to a final decision. If you have any question, feel free to drop me a comment, but with that, I've been Cole and I appreciate you all for watching. I'll catch you in the next one, but until then, take care.